Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm reviewing Lion Brand's yarn, Hue Me. So this yarn is actually a pretty recent addition to the Lion Brand shop. This is a relatively new yarn, and since I am using it in a project for the first time, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what I think of this yarn and how it feels and how it works up. So first of all, this is a bulky weight yarn. And the purpose of this yarn is that every single color in the collection for this line is designed so that any color can go with any other color. So they all match each other. You can pick any 2 colors and they will just automatically go together. You can pick any 5 colors and they will automatically go together. So these are kind of an interchangeable, you don't have to think about whether the colors will match or not. You can just pick any 2 or 5 or 10 colors you like and put them together in a project, and they will match, they will go together, they will coordinate. So that is kind of the theme of this line, is that you can just pick any of the colors and they will go together perfectly. So this yarn is a bulky weight wool blend. So it's a number 5 bulky weight. And this is a 125 gram or 4.4 ounce skein with 137 yards or 125 meters. And this is 80% acrylic and 20% wool. This is also machine wash and dry, by the way. So it's an easy care yarn. And I have 2 different colors here. I have the Desert colorway, which is kind of a slightly warm beige. It kind of has a few of those little pinkish reddish tones to it, but it's not distinctly pink. It's still beige. It's just kind of a pink toned beige. And it's a really pretty neutral that works really well with pretty much any color you would want to wear this with. Of course, it will match any of the colors in the collection, but this will work very nicely with whatever, if you make a garment out of it, with whatever clothes you want to wear it with. And the other colorway I have here is called Bellini, and this is kind of a pink-toned terracotta color, but it's not a super strong color. It's kind of a little bit more muted. Now, there are a lot more colors in this line than what I have right here. I've only decided to use 2 colors in my first project with this yarn, but so far I've been knitting up a pullover pattern, and by the time this video goes live, this pattern will already be on my channel and on my blog. So if you want to check out this pullover, it's going to be called the Dip Dye Sweater, because the bottom of the sweater kind of fades into a different color here. So this sweater pattern that is already out on my site by the time you are watching this review video, this sweater pattern would be ideal if you want to try out 2 colors, any 2 colors of this yarn, and they will all go together no matter which 2 colors you pick. So I've got these 2 colors here, and I have really enjoyed working with this yarn. So first up, let's talk about the texture of this yarn. So this yarn is spun with the normal twist that most yarns have. It's not a Z-twist yarn where they're spun in the opposite direction. But this strand, the yarn strand, is very smooth and soft, and it has a slight fuzz to it. So it kind of has almost like a very, very slight brushed look, where that you can kind of see just a tiny bit of fuzz on the surface of the yarn, but it's not an overly fuzzy yarn. It's still pretty smooth. But what I like about that is that it keeps the yarn totally matte finish, and yet it looks kind of more expensive or more upscale than your typical just straight up bulky weight acrylic. So that little touch of fuzz helps make it look, I personally think it helps make it look more expensive and more luxurious, because it doesn't have the shine that you would normally get from a lot of other fibers. It's totally matte, and that touch of fuzz also keeps it from looking like a pure acrylic. So this is a wool blend. It is part acrylic, but I really like that little bit of wool in there. And by the way, I don't think this is scratchy at all. It's very soft and smooth, and it doesn't have any itchiness in my opinion at all. And I kind of think that that might be because a lot of pure wool yarns and possibly also some blends. I don't know. I haven't done a whole lot with blended wool yarns, but a lot of wool yarns that people find to be itchy are, first of all, not washable. They're not superwash wool. Superwash wool has been treated in such a way that the fibers will not felt when you wash them. So this, I'm assuming, is some kind of superwash wool because it says you can put it in the washing machine. So a lot of the wool yarns that people find itchy are not superwash. So they have not been treated so that they can't felt. That has a different feel to it. That changes the feel of the fiber. And also a lot of the straight wool yarns that are just pure wool, especially if they are not superwash, they tend to have a lot of those wool fibers sticking out all over the place. Even if it doesn't look like a lot, they tend to have some fibers sticking out. And that is, in my opinion, what makes some wool yarns itchy, is that the fibers are not smooth and running along with the strand of yarn. And I don't think this yarn has either of those problems. Again, I would assume this is superwash wool blended with the acrylic, since it is labeled as machine washable. And also the fibers are not sticking out. There's not really any like wool fiber sticking out of the strand. It's just a slight fuzz that is very close to the strand. And that's really pretty in my opinion. So if you have tried wool yarns before, especially if you've only tried yarns that are not superwash, then I would recommend not being scared off from this yarn because it has some wool in it, because really it is so soft and so smooth. It's not like as soft as cashmere or something, but it does have a very good softness for the fiber content that's in it. So thus far in my project, I have had 0 issues with splitting the yarn, and I have really enjoyed working with it. It has a very nice bouncy squishy texture to it, and I think it works up really nicely, and I feel like it's a pretty easy yarn to work with. This yarn has not given me any problems at all, and I've actually knit more than what I've got here on the table. So I have knit a pretty decent amount of fabric out of this yarn so far, and I really enjoy the feel of it when you're knitting with it. I enjoy the feel of it in the fabric. If I just kind of move this skein out of the way here and pick up my piece. Of course, the pliability of the fabric is going to depend on the stitch pattern you're using, the needle size that you're using, but I am using a size 13 or 9mm needle. The label actually recommends a size 10.5 or 6.5mm needle, and that might be fine if you're doing like stockinette stitch. But with the garter stitch, I wanted a slightly looser gauge so that this would be very, very pliable and soft and drape beautifully. And it really does that, and I like the feel of this. It's just a very smooth, squishy, and not itchy in the slightest fabric. So as far as the texture of the yarn goes, the strand feels really nice and it's very easy to work with. I have not had any issues with this yarn splitting, and it just feels like a really nice quality yarn. But let's get on to the other thing I like about this yarn, and that is the look of the yarn, whether it's in the skein or already in the project. One thing I like about the colors of this yarn is that they all seem to be just slightly heathered, or at least a lot of them do. Of course, I haven't tried all of them in person, but this one, for example, this desert colorway, it's not a very strong contrast, but if you look closely, you probably can't see this on camera, but in person, if I look at this very closely where all these strands are kind of laying next to each other, there are just slight subtle differences in the color. So there's some very small areas that have just a slightly more cream tone to them, some that have a slightly more pink tone. So the color is kind of a heathered color. It's not all 100% solid, but it's not like a variegated yarn either. It's just that the way that this is dyed or spun, or however they make it do this, I really don't know. The colors are kind of blended together, but they're not 100% blended. So it's like you can still see just subtle differences that are barely even there, but it adds a lot of depth to the look of the color. And I really like that because it's not overly multicolored or anything. It still reads to your eye as a solid, and it looks like a solid. But there's just enough subtle variation where those tones in this yarn are not all just one solid color all the way through. It's just kind of almost blended, but just barely you can see those little subtle differences, and that I think is a really, really pretty look. Now, I don't notice that as much with this color, but I still think it has a really nice look to the color because of that very, very slight fuzz. Now, if there is any heathering to this color, it's harder for me to see than the heathering on this color. Now, I don't know that there's really very much heathering, if any, in this color, but I really like the look of it anyway, because that fuzz, even though it's very slight, I think it gives it a more upscale look. It gives it a more expensive, luxurious look. And when you work this up into a project, the stitch definition is very good. You can see the texture of the stitches clearly. Of course, this is garter stitch, so yeah, it has a lot of texture, but you can really see the individual strands of yarn in the fabric, and I really like that because it kind of makes those stitches pop. So overall, would I use this yarn again? Absolutely. It's slightly more expensive than some of your very, very basic acrylic yarns that you can get, but this is not exactly a basic acrylic yarn. This is kind of a step up from your basic acrylic. So the price for this is fairly reasonable in my opinion, and I would definitely use this in a project again. I really love all the colors in this collection, and I would definitely enjoy working with this yarn again and putting some different colors together to see what that looks like. But yes, I would definitely use this yarn again. I'm definitely enjoying using this. And if you are in the market for a bulky weight yarn that does not look like straight up acrylic, then I would definitely recommend trying this out. I will link where you can get this yarn down below. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you have tried this yarn yet in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.